club, or we're possibly on double secret probation when the district governor shows up again. Is there something we don't know about?
Well, Danny's out of town, and I'm going to transfer my makeup to you. Oh.
You are.
Don't announce my guest yet.
Hold on.
Reverend Crabtree will do our invocation and
Shall we pray?
And Rotary moment.
Gracious Father, we come before you today with thanksgiving in our hearts for a wonderful day. Thank you for all that you've done for us. Help us to count our blessings. We pray that today you would help us to bless somebody else's life and to make a difference in our culture, to make a difference in our world. We pray that our fellowship this morning would be rich. We thank you so much just for the privilege of being part of this club. And so now guide us through this day, we pray, and bless those who would share with us this morning. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the things we think, say, and do
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Bobby, he gets the waivers.
I was going to say.
He filled in today, he gets the waivers.
I'm full of all this.
We don't have enough time for all
You don't have enough time. Give a preacher a minute to share his
Sergeant at Arms, I'll move on. Are they still out the door?
No, he's right here. It's Ben.
Here, Bennett Riley, Sergeant at Arms.
Okay, we have guests today. Cheryl has a guest, Justin Plummer, who is
On his way, stuck on 40.
Yep, bad accident today.
and we also have a guest, Dan Collison. And we have visiting Rotarians, Rick Martin from Crescent, Deborah Friedman from Summit, Carl Ashby from Greensboro, and Cookie Billings.
Ron Martin. Did we miss one? I thought Ron did.
Rick.
Oh, Rick.
Rick.
And Rob Midget.
Steve Brand.
Don't mess the new guy up.
Birthdays, anniversaries. Kevin.
We don't have any, we're clear on birthdays as well as anniversaries again this week. But I do have as a Rotary anniversary on the 15th for Dan Quinn, 5 years.
Okay.
So he's on holiday.
Emily, you have a special announcement.
I do. So, people have been asking, and rightly so, about the fundraiser. And so, we're working with Ross, and I guess technically the current amount is $19,655, but I am going to pledge to make up whatever difference there is so that we're at an even $20,000. About 15,500 for donations to allocate next year.
All right, that's a great job. Thank you. Dr. Walt, I guess we're done with the football pool. Dr. Walt, did I see you?
Yeah, college football has been done for a while. We just so everybody knows, when Santa won the Zero Award, there were some forms in it, and a couple of guys actually faxed me one or emailed me one. Blake won with 13. With 13, yeah. And I think there were 27 games, so it was not a competitive round. But I do want to, thanks for giving me a moment. Thank you so much, everybody that donated prizes. Really great job this year. It made a lot of fun, so people who won. We did have a couple left over, a couple of mugs, and we'll just kind of keep them in the stack, I guess, for the fall.
Sure. No zero awards left.
There are 2 bars left.
We could use those for other type things.
Yeah,
Like missing your 5-year anniversary.
yeah, that's one way to go. That's one way to
Good job,
go.
Walt. Yeah. Do we have any other announcements from the floor? If not,
Happy
our
dollars.
favorite moment.
I can smell them.
Got change?
Yeah. Change it from yours to mine.
Good morning, Gate City. So exciting news in the Kim Williams world is that at 10 o'clock this morning, I will be accepting and starting a new position for employment as the Director of Sales at Atlantic Webworks, which is a marketing agency that specializes in that digital world that I'm so fond of. We have an office here in Greensboro, also an office down in Myrtle Beach, which will be nice because I've got family down that way. So I'm excited about that, moving back into the marketing world, so fun times.
All right.
There you go. I've got a little bit of a late New Year's announcement. For many of you know, my middle son is in Belgium this year doing a French immersion program. And I was texting him and asking him, well, can you send me some pictures of New Year's Eve, how they celebrate in Belgium? And he's like, sorry, I can't, I'm too busy. That's, coming from a 16-year-old is not really the best message you want to see. So I get a message afterwards, and he said, well, I had a great time. They have a tradition in Belgium where on New Year's Eve you get to kiss a girl. And how well the kiss is determines your new year. So I texted back and said, well, how's this new year going to be? And he said, well, it's going to be a very good year. I'm a little concerned. As a side note, the gal he kissed was from Australia and on a Rotary scholarship, which is really cool. And I guess that my son has already experienced his Rotary moment before becoming a Rotarian. So.
Thanks for staying away from the down under.
I introduced myself to a gentleman I hadn't seen or met before, but I thought I saw his face while we were eating, just being, as our Gate City folks that we are. And this gentleman, Dan Collison, when he's put his hat in for Howard's seat. So I was just bouncing some politics off him. I thought, Dan, would you mind sharing with us some of your foundational principles that you stand for? I'm going to give you some floor time briefly.
Put you on the
30
spot.
seconds. You get 30 seconds for this, but
Dan, welcome to Gate City.
Thank you. Well, appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I won't overextend the welcome that was extended to me there, but I do appreciate the work that Rotary does internationally. I've been a pastor for 27 years, and in that role have repeatedly served alongside Rotarians in many different cities across North America. And I want to congratulate you in the work that you're involved in there. And I'm looking for a home Rotary here. So I'm shopping around to the different Rotary clubs just to let you know. But a couple of my foundational principles spring directly out of who I am as a father and have been as a pastor. I believe in fiscal responsibility, and our monetary house has got to be brought back into order. Just like my family budget needs to be taken care of, so does our national one. I very strongly believe in the conservative values that I believe have made this country strong, and we need to get back to those to help us regain some of the strength that we have maybe tripped up on a little bit. You can see a whole lot more about me in the campaign. If you want to visit collisonforcongress.com. That's not collision, missing one eye. collisonforcongress.com. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Got a couple. As many of you know, both of those my girls are big soccer players. And this is the first year of basketball, and they went out and
Rosa said, as I'm dropping her off, just can you give me any idea what the rules are?
Stick to swimming.
But she's doing very well. I told her she's more like Dennis Rodman. Shouldn't have the shooting thing down, but she's crashing the board pretty good. Victoria is at the age where that's the shot. She drained a 3 at her first game, and that was pure luck. But Rosa got her letter from her coach that analyzes her once a year, and she plays at the Navy level, which is the top level for 11-year-old or 12-year-old. And it's about 3 pages. So we're picking out things, and you need to work on your left foot, you need to do this, you need to do that, you've come a long way, and blah, 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 blah. And one thing she said, you become a confident and dangerous player, which can change a game. And I'm going on this, and I said, what do you think? And she looked at me, and she goes, I don't think he thinks I'm doing that well. I said, what about confident and dangerous player that can change a game that you not get?
No, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
There's paper in it.
I think it's
Paper in it.
Okay.
Paper.
So I knew I had $1 to give today, but on my way over here, I was thinking, oh man, I'm out of dollars because I took Chip. Where's Chip Bale? Chip and I, he's not here. Chip and I went to lunch this week, and he made me feel guilty because he reminded me during our lunch that we were going to go Dutch, that I had roped him in to be a secretary for 2 years, and he was like giving me the sob story, so I picked up the bill, and I don't have the cash, so
This is not $1, and this is a celebration station token.
In the right hands, that's worth a lot of money. I'm telling
So
you.
I borrowed that. Thank you very much. Who did I borrow that money from?
Your daughter.
No. Well, I walked in with Robbie Hassel and Howard Triggers.
Okay, all right.
But I borrowed it from Howard.
Okay.
He had borrowed it
He
from
was
Robbie.
working the gym.
Okay, so anyway, here's my happy dollar.
Wait a minute.
My happy dollar is for, I've got another $1 coming. Is for Chris Justice. He's not here today. I brought a little token of appreciation because Chris exemplifies a Rotarian in this way. Not religiously, not politically, not charitably, although he does all those things too, but because he is a good business person and he promotes fellow business people in Rotary. And he's given me 2 really good referrals, and just wanted to thank Chris and also put in a plug for business people doing ethical, good work and helping others.
Good job. What you thought he was worth.
My guest is now here. He got stuck on 40. This is Justin Plummer. He is a new attorney with our office. He walks in here, and the first person he sees is Marley. I said, how do you know? He's my husband's fraternity brother. So, Justin is
Stick around for a while.
Charlotte this weekend. Marley, you want to say
Your
something?
secrets are safe with me. Brian Kaiser, your secrets are still safe.
Well, I think Wilder, when he started playing basketball the first time, I think he got the same speech. He drained it 3 at the end of the game, only it was in the wrong basket. We'll talk about that. But anyway, I want to thank everybody who's offered to volunteer or help with enduring gratitude. We've got an orientation this Saturday the 25th for anybody who is a volunteer and wants to come down, and I'll send out an email about that. And we need money. We've got almost all the nut of the whole thing. It's going to cost about $25,000, and we're at 21.5 or so, 21.6, something like that. So if you could help, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I need to circulate the oil in the airplane after I leave here. If anybody wants to go for a quick trip to Hanging Rock when Rotary's over, just see me after. It's a beautiful day. I'm coming back.
What time will you be back?
landings and takeoff.
What time will we be back? How long?
It'll take 15 minutes.
I'm right by the airport. I'll go with you.
Well, anyway, Grandpappy. I'll wait and balance.
I'll lean.
So Grandpappy had this friend when he was young, and this friend was, he worked in the family business, and one day he realized that when his elderly ill father died, that he was going to inherit an enormous sum of money. And he decided that he needed a wife to share it with. So he, one night at a investment meeting, he looks across the room and there's just a breathtakingly beautiful woman. He just was astounded. And so he goes over and he says, you know, I may not look like much, but when my father, who is very ill, dies, I'm going to be worth more than $200 million. The woman was quite interested, and she said, can I have your card? And so he gave her a card, and 3 days later, she became his stepmother. So Grandpappy always told me, women are much better at finances than men.
All right, so our program today is on the Rotary District Organ Tissue Donor Project, and the goal for the project is to register 4,700 new donors through clubs in the community. And you know, the biggest challenge I guess we're facing is that most Rotarians already are registered donors, which is great. So, you know, in order for us to make this happen, we have to reach out to family and friends who may not have already signed up. And the clubs that have the highest participation in filling out the tracking forms and signing up new donors will receive an award at the district convention at Brookland Park. So we'll get to, it's a major award, right? And so this morning we do have Rick Martin and we have Cookie here with us. Our speaker this morning is Beth Hensley, who is the Community Relations Coordinator for Carolina Donor Services. So Beth is in charge with providing community education about organ and tissue donation. She is a graduate of Winston-Salem State University with a bachelor's degree in nursing. She has worked for Carolina Donor Services for over 17 years. When Beth first came to Carolina Donor Services, she was a tissue donation coordinator responsible for the recovery of the many different tissues used today in transplantation. She then moved on to organ preservation recovery, where one of her job responsibilities was the perfusion of kidneys on a machine till transplant. So today, Beth's main focus is offering community education, and so we're happy to have you here and to hear about this program. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I want to thank you for having me here this morning. You guys seem like a lively group for this early in the morning, so this has been quite a pleasure to get to talk with some of you guys. But yes, my name is Beth Hensley, and I'm with Carolina Donor Services, and we are the organ procurement organization that covers 79 counties in North Carolina, 1 county in Virginia, which is Danville, Virginia, and we work with 111 hospitals and 4 main transplant centers. Now, when I'm in the community talking about organ and tissue donation, oftentimes I get the question asked to me, why is it so important to think about organ donation? Well, it's the number of people that are waiting. And unfortunately, across the United States, there's over 120,000 people waiting for a life-saving organ. Those organs they're waiting on: heart, lungs, liver, kidney, pancreas, and small intestine. Now, oftentimes people say to me, well, okay, Beth, that's across the United States. That's 120,000 people. That kind of makes sense. That's a large number, but that's a pretty big area to cover. What people don't realize, right here in North Carolina, unfortunately, there's over 3,500 patients who are waiting on that list. Statistically, they estimate about every 13 to 15 minutes, a new name is being added to that waiting list. Those are some of the numbers that we look at. Unfortunately, this number is what we have to face every evening. They estimate about 18 to 20 people die a day while waiting for an organ transplant. Oftentimes people say to me, well, what can I do? I'm one person. What difference can I make? Well, today, you guys getting this information, thinking about making a decision to become an organ and tissue donor can actually save and enhance the lives of over 50 people. So it's one person making one decision that can have an impact on so many people. I have met many recipients of both organ and tissue donation in my 17 years of working with Carolina Donor Services. I have to say personally, when I started this job, I didn't know how it would affect me outside of my professional career. But I am a donor family member and also a recipient family member. I have a cousin who we are about a year difference in age. At the age of 7 years old, she was told she had diabetes. So you can imagine being told so young you had this disease. I can remember as we grew up, I always watched her check her sugars, give herself insulin shots. I also saw that she couldn't do the things and eat the foods that we normally did at family get-togethers, and I thought, man, her life's getting kind of restricted. I didn't realize as she got older just what that disease would do. Unfortunately, her kidneys took a big hit, and she was placed on dialysis. I got to spend 3 weeks with her one summer, and I got to actually see what dialysis meant for her. She was on dialysis that she went to a dialysis center 3 days a week. I didn't think much about that because 3 days a week, I thought, well, that's not every day, it's just 3 days a week. What I didn't realize, the time that she spent those 3 days, she was on a machine for about 5 hours. When she came off that machine, it wasn't like she had all the energy in the world. She was pretty exhausted. The day in between, as she wasn't at the dialysis center, she usually spent either in a bed or on the couch. She was resting up for the next treatment. That's just what dialysis did to her. A family we do not know, in their darkest hour, their worst moments, their loved one was an organ donor. They honored those wishes, and today she is a recipient of both a kidney and a pancreas. Now when people say to me, will it make a difference? For her, it made a tremendous difference. She is now living life dialysis free. The kidney that she received is doing the job it's supposed to. That diabetes that she had, getting that new pancreas, pretty much cured those diabetes. So guess what? No more checking her blood sugars, no more giving herself insulin shots. That's what donation means. That's what organ donation means. I also mentioned tissue donation. And oftentimes people say to me, well, Beth, I think I'm registered to be an organ donor, but what does it mean to be a tissue donor? The heart on the license, that covers organ and eye donation, but it doesn't include the tissue. And these tissues can be donated to enhance the lives of many, many, many people. There are tissue transplants that are done every day in hospitals all across the United States. The different tissues that can be donated are things like bone, skin, heart valves, tendons, ligaments, muscle. These are all used in surgeries every day. People say to me, well, donating tissue, can it help? I met a gentleman just a couple of weeks ago. He was a firefighter. He had spent 22 years dedicating his life to fighting fires. Unfortunately, on his last fire, it was a house fire and he was trapped and had severe burns. Almost third-degree burns throughout his body. If it wasn't for the gift of someone donating skin, this gentleman wouldn't be here today. He had many, many skin grafts, but he said, you know what? A stranger, someone that I'll never know, someone I'll never meet. They saved my life. I spent 22 years trying to save everyone else's life, and it took just one person making one decision, and I'm here today. So tissue has a tremendous impact. I could tell about many, many stories. People ask me all the time, bone donation, what is that used for? I know a gentleman who at the age of 14 was diagnosed with cancer. He had a tumor in his leg, and the doctors looked at him and his family and said, you have cancer. The other thing is that you'll probably have to have an amputation above the knee. So you can imagine for this family, for this 14-year-old, being told this news. But through the use of someone being a tissue donor, donating tissue, donating bone, this young man received a bone transplant. They were able to take the cancerous growth out, replace it with donated bone, and today, if he were to walk in here, you guys would never know what he went through. He doesn't have a limp, he doesn't have anything. What he does have is he has courage and he has his leg because someone was a tissue donor. The form that you see here, I know Rick and Cookie, they both stand behind this. The heart on the license, and I hear over and over, well, I already have that heart on my license. It's a done deal. I'm a donor. As I mentioned earlier, heart on the license just covers organ and eye donation. We encourage everyone to just be a donor. Donate those tissue. Donate those organs. Help as many people as you can. It's the greatest gift that you can leave behind. It's kind of like leaving a legacy. This form right here, you can fill out. There is a state registry. And I have a card up here as well for you guys to take home. As was mentioned earlier, it's just not what you do registering. It's encouraging your family and your friends. We tell people there's 3 steps to registering to be an organ donor. Placing the heart on your driver's license, going on to the state registry. And this right here is kind of a form that you can fill out today. The state registry is donatelifenc.org. The great thing about the state registry, it takes that driver's license one step further. You can be very specific on the state registry as the organs and tissue you would like to have donated. Great laws have been put in place now in North Carolina. As of October of 2007, the heart on the license, if you're over the age of 18, is now legal first-person consent for organ and eye donation. That means we're going to go by your wishes, regardless of what someone would want for you. Also, the state registry, this form right here, the online registry. You can register your wishes online. That too, if you're over the age of 18, is legal first-person consent. So now in North Carolina, your voice can be heard at the end. These wishes can be carried out, and you can save or enhance the lives of many, many people. Now in the community, I always get asked several questions. Probably the top question that I'm asked every day is age. I always hear people say to me, you know what, if you heard me get out of bed this morning, how I moaned and groaned, my bones popped and creaked, you would look at me and say, there can't be anything that's worth donating. I'm too old. Amazingly enough, there is no age limit. Our oldest organ donor was 91 years old. She was able to donate her liver to a gentleman who was in his early 70s. He's still doing great. The liver he received is still doing great. Unfortunately, our youngest organ donor was 5 days old. But through his gift, 3 other recipients who are about a month old are still here today. Other questions people ask me. Are there any diseases? You talked about diabetes. You know, there's other diseases out there. Is there anything that would rule me out to becoming an organ donor? There are 2 diseases, HIV and active cancer, would rule a person out for organ donation. But even with active cancer, you can still donate your corneas to give sight to someone who cannot see. So what I tell people all the time, don't worry about anything going on today or anything that went on before. Make a decision. Register your wishes on your driver's license, on the state registry, and don't worry about it from that point forward. Just know that maybe someday you can help or enhance the lives of over 50 people. The last thing that people ask me, is there a cost involved? Is my family going to be charged anything at all if I'm an organ or tissue donor? Because I don't want to leave any expenses behind. There is no charge at all for you to be an organ, eye, or tissue donor. All those costs related to donation is picked up by the Organ Procurement Agency. So there is no charge at all for you to be a donor. Those are my top questions. Do you guys, I always want to open it up to the group and ask, is there any questions that you have for me? Yes, sir.
If you have an advance directive specifying that your issues can go to science or whatever, and the healthcare power of attorney knows that you need this form?
They say you still need to go ahead and register just to cover all the bases. So that form is not going to cause any other problems with the advanced directives or anything. It's just taking it one step further to making sure you're covered all the way around. Yes, sir.
If you're a donor and you are involved in an accident and you're not going to recover, you're on life support, tell me how that works out. If you're
With the organ procurement agency, we work with all the hospitals and all the counties that I mentioned earlier. And at the time of someone's death, we get a notified call that there's been a death or a pending death. And at that point, the donor process starts from there. So all deaths or pending deaths from the hospital are called to us. So that's how we work with our donors and our donor families, is that referral call from the hospitals. That kind of answer your question? Another thing sometimes people wonder about, and I don't know if anybody in this room has ever wondered, but I do hear people sometimes say, I want to do this, but I'm kind of afraid that if I put a heart on my license, if I'm ever in an accident or something ever would ever happen to me, will they save my life? Will they do everything they can to save my life, or do they just want my organs? Now, you guys kind of laugh, but I get that every day almost, because movies, TV shows, House, Grey's Anatomy, sometimes they don't portray donation in a very positive light. I can tell you, being a nurse working in the trauma ICU, I never saw a driver's license. I never knew what my patient's wishes were. What I did know is what we needed to do to save a life, and it's not until after death is pronounced is donation even an option. So, yes?
How long is an organ viable?
The organs, heart and lungs are our two most critical organs. We only have about 4 to 6 hours from the time they're recovered from the donor to the time they're transplanted to the recipient. Other organs like your liver, pancreas, intestines, we have anywhere from 18 to 20 hours. With the kidneys, we have up to 24 hours unless they're on the preservation machine, which we can actually keep those on the machine for up to 48 hours. So it gives us a little bit longer time to get the recipients for those organs. But it is kind of time sensitive and critical once those organs are recovered to get them transplanted. That's why we try to have them placed with the recipient before we actually, the surgeons recover them for transplant. Yes, sir.
How wide area do you cover?
We go from Marion, North Carolina, all the way to the coast. So all the counties and all the hospitals with that service area. There's another organ procurement agency in North Carolina, Life Share of the Carolinas. They do the western tip counties of North Carolina. They do the exact same job that we do. Their transplant center is Carolinas Medical Center, and they work directly with those hospitals. Yes?
Do some organs are harder to get than others? I'm sure a heart would be way up there, but if you needed a liver transplant, is that easier to get that than it would be a cornea, or how's that called?
The number one needed organ right now, both here in North Carolina and across the United States, is a kidney. Kidneys are the number one needed organ. Other organs are sometimes, depending on the history, the health history of a patient, sometimes heart and lungs are a little bit harder to recover because they may not be able to be used for transplant. Someone may have had a heart attack, and unfortunately that heart may be damaged beyond being able to be transplanted to someone else. But right now, kidneys are the number one needed organ, both here in North Carolina and across the United States. And I can stand up here today and say, unfortunately, all the organs are very needed because there's just not enough organs for all the patients who are waiting. So unfortunately, that waiting list, these patients are placed on it, but then they have to wait. And I hope someday with registering, simply people registering to be an organ and tissue donor, someday we can hopefully get that list to zero. Just getting people to register. I
had a client yesterday and she was called. Her husband had a living will and he had the heart on his license, but she was still called moments after he passed away. And she said she just couldn't do it at that point in time. So how effective is it having a living will or a heart on your license if it's not registered? Do y'all try to call the family first?
We work with the family. Even if you're registered, we still work with the family. We have to do a medical social history. If you've ever donated blood, it's the exact same questions that we have to ask to the family just to make sure that the organs and tissue are okay to be transplanted to the recipients.
So even in that process, we still work with the family. Whether you're registered or have paperwork in place, we're still working with the family.
So when she said no, no was accepted, even though he had the paperwork. Is that normal?
If it was just for tissue, if he died of a cardiac death, then unfortunately, tissue was just an option, and that heart on the license does not cover that. But if he had been registered in the state registry for both organ, eye, and tissue donation, then we would have had to have gone by his wishes.
Right, so he had the form allowing all that, but because he wasn't registered, she had the authority to say no. Okay.
So that's why it's so important to register. Register, fill this form out. I know Cookie and Rick want you guys to fill this form out because your club needs to be recognized for the work that you're doing. So, Rick, do you want to say anything about the forms before?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that the hospital will contact. You might wonder how they know to contact, because you said they contact every time of death, but it's not every death that they contact you. It's only if we register.
Well, the hospital has to call in all deaths or all impending deaths. So at that point, we see if there's suitability. We wouldn't want to ask a family about organ and tissue donation if there was not an option for that family.
And yeah, having been through it, there's nobody that comes around talking to you about anything about this until the death has occurred. And then you hear folks saying, have you discussed this? And at that point, you go forward. And I know that's something we all know it doesn't happen, and yet it kind of looms because of television shows and that type of thing in our mind. Gee, is somebody hovering outside this door just because my loved one has signed this form? And I'm sorry, I can tell you, no, that's nothing like that at all. And the other thing on skin donation, sometimes that kind of creeps folks out. You're talking about grafts maybe from behind the leg, lower back type of thing. So don't think gross and in big terms on something like that, because it's very important.
You had specifically said organs, tissue, and eyes. This form just says organs and tissue. Then does that cover eyes as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Or if you pass out of state.
What they do is they recognize the laws of the state that you came from. Every state in the United States has different laws surrounding registering to be an organ and tissue donor, but they go back to the state where you reside in to follow those laws. And we get that a lot sometimes with patients coming to Baptist from like Virginia or other states, but we recognize the laws in those states. And if you have a registry and you're registered in the state that you're from, they're going to recognize that as first person consent.
How long does it take to get a kidney for a 3-month-old?
It just depends. That was one of the hardest things when I sat across with my cousin when she was listed, is the surgeon said, I know how to fix the problem. I can't tell you when you'll ever get an organ to fix the problem. She waited over 3.5 years before she got the first phone call. So it's one of those you never know.
I've been following the Facebook chronicle of a family friend waiting for a kidney for a 3-month-old. He's got to the point where I can't even read it anymore. It's that sad.
Yeah, these are numbers, over 3,500 patients here in North Carolina. Every 13 to 15 minutes, a new name's being added to that list. These are numbers that we have to look at every day. But just registering. And, a lot of times people say, well, organ's life-saving. Tissue's kind of life-enhancing. Think in the back of your mind, just remember the story of the fireman who's now able to continue his job because someone donated skin grafts. Met a gentleman who received a corneal transplant, who can see the sunrise, the sunset every day. And the young man who got a bone transplant because otherwise he'd have an amputation above the knee. These are all gifts that can be given to help so many people. And I always tell people, register, put the heart on your license, fill this form out today. But then the third most important thing, and people kind of asked about it and talked about it, share your wishes with your family. Let your family know your decision. Encourage them to register. But don't just leave it with your family. Talk to your friends. Talk to coworkers. Just everybody we can to get them registered.
Oh, I would like to add this wonderful presentation this morning. I'll handle a little bit of the administrative, what we're asking you to do. We have 2 sheets on the table. One is actually you can use to register as a paper form if you wish to register on paper. And you can hand that in to us today. That will be fine. Or you can simply choose to go online and do it directly. But this allows you, this sheet allows you to do the entire registration on paper, and then we can collect it and get that registered for you, or do it online. This other sheet with the Donate Life in the middle is a tracking form. And this is the form that we're counting by club, because we have received a grant, no Rotary money in this at all, but it is a grant from the License to Give Trust Fund of North Carolina in order to count the people that we talk to. So it's an awareness campaign as well as actual asking people to register. So if you will today, before you leave, at least fill out this form, which is the tracking form, and we'll collect those for Gate City Club, and we'll be for that. But again, the other form is simply if you have not registered, you want to be thorough in doing organ and tissue donor, complete this one, we'll collect that and register you online as well, or you simply go online. Any questions about that? Yes.
Cookie, how I can make the most difference is giving this information to the people that I work with. You know,
Oh, that'd be
several
wonderful.
hundred people, but I can't tell you what they're gonna do. I won't know that.
Right, right, but any copies of that, we have to get extra ones here, and that would be wonderful.
I can just make copies of this.
Absolutely.
Should I give them this 7690 special event information?
Yeah,
Yes.
in the email I had sent yesterday, the link is live, if you want to send that
Yeah,
to
I
them.
was about to
Yeah, then
say,
they can select that.
And
as
it's on the
special
front
event
page of our
you'll track.
district website as well. If you go on the front page and look down, all the information is on that as well. But if you get them to do a tracking form, put Gate City Rotary on it and count that as coming through Gate City Rotary. You'll turn it in. Instructions for submitting it on the bottom. You can do it in a group here, or you can send it in later.
And I want to follow up by just saying, if any of you guys ever need a presentation, church group, civic group, but you know someone who needs a presentation, please call us. I have a form up here that looks like this. Take one of these home when you're talking to your family about registering online. Heart on the license, it talks about the state registering the heart on the license. On the back is our contact information, our website. So if you get home and someone has a question, you can have a resource. But please call us, because our mission is just to get information to people so they can make a decision to save life.
Is there any kind of push to actually change the definition of the heart on the license so that
Yes, we are continually trying to get the heart on the license to be all-inclusive. When you register, you're a donor. Whatever can be used to help people. Yeah, we're trying to, because it gets a little confusing about everything.
What's the pushback? Why wouldn't that go through?
I'm not real sure when they passed the law, why they, I know that it was said that most people know about organ donation, but they weren't quite sure everyone knew about tissue transplants and tissue donation, so they wanted to get a lot more education out there before they made it all inclusive. And this card up here is by the LCD projector. I can put it in the back of the room, but please take this, and as Cookie and Rick said, register. Make sure you fill this tracking form out and get the information out there, because lives can be saved just by talking, just by registering.
I have one more question. What about living donors?
Yes.
You know, the kidneys, the bone marrow. I know 3 people who've done kidney donations. I work with 2 of them. You know, how do you get that out there? Why should we have such difficulty finding a kidney?
Living donation, the transplant centers are doing a lot of work to try to promote the living donation aspect of that and get more people to at least be tested to see if they could be a match and be a living donor. Right now, we're just concentrating on when you're no longer here, leave those organs and tissue for someone to help save a life or enhance a life. So education is being done. The transplant centers are doing that for living donation. Yes, sir.
How is the list for a specific organ prioritized?
Wait time, the longer you're on the list, the higher up you move. The sickness of the patient, unfortunately, the sicker you are, the higher on the list you are. But unfortunately, a lot of times when we make those calls to those patients, they may be too sick to undergo the transplant at that time. UNOS, the United Network of Organ Sharing. They have the list. We don't know the patients. We don't even know the race, the gender. We just have the last name, identifying number, their patient number 1. We start at the list and work our way down.
Does the tissue donor, recently there's been a lot of innovation with face transplants. Would that be covered under that category of tissues?
Right now, we are not, we recover things like skin and tendons and muscles to help with those type surgeries, but we're not actually doing the face transplants, the procedure for that right now here. I can say for North Carolina right now. But 5 years from now, a year from now, technology and medical science is changing every day, so. Well, thank you guys. You guys have been wonderful, wonderful questions, but I'll stick around and let you know.
We will donate a book, Works of School, on that Easter morning that we described with today, your name. Thank you so much. And if you would please draw a winning raffle ticket. Don't forget the cart fund on your table. Have a great day. Last 3 days.